In this episode, we're diving into what it really means to live honestly with yourself, with the people you love, and with the world. Because healing doesn't happen in hiding, it happens in truth. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. My name is Michael Perry and I'm joined today by Justin.
Howdy.
And we're excited to jump into this topic of radical honesty. So I know we've touched on radical accountability, radical acceptance, and all this radicalness is a bit extreme, but it's also necessary. So what would you define radical honesty as, and how does it separate from the other two?
I would describe it with an axiom. The truth has no regard for popularity. That's what I would describe it as.
You know, that's a good one.
I mean, it's literally, that axiom literally speaks to this episode that we're going to do today because, you know, it is how it sounds. It's being honest and open with courage.
Yeah.
You know, saying what you need to say, saying how you feel and what you're thinking. So
100%.
Especially when it's uncomfortable. That's the hardest time to do it, but that's the time it really needs to happen. So
yeah, I mean, it's like there's so many people, especially when it comes to, like, I know I myself, it's like I used to be such a people pleaser, and I used to just, it's better not, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all, and just like, you know, it's not worth the conflict that's going to come, and I realized that was damaging to my peace. That was damaging to my very essence and self-respect. It's like if someone did something I didn't like, more and more I realize radical honesty is being upfront. Hey, I don't appreciate what you did there. I don't appreciate what you said. Hey, you know, I think you're acting out of line right now. And a lot of people don't like to hear it, especially when they're used to you going with the flow. But man, it is such a, once you start
and
cultivating,
it's not even really
skill,
going with the flow, man. It's going against your flow, your life, your connection. You're giving it up for people to make them feel better. And no, to hell with that. Because you're important too.
Well, they talk about one of the issues people run into when they are people pleasers. The more people pleasers they are, the more they lose identity. And there's this term called being a social chameleon, which is very much where if you feel like you're a social chameleon, which is someone who sort of adapt wherever you go, you sort of blend in with the scene that you're at. You realize that you're never being fully authentic because you're blending in with your peers. It's easier for you to blend in and mirror people than it is to bring your authentic self to the table. And with radical honesty, it's being able to, even if you guys are just talking about a show and you don't like the show, being able to say, hey, I think that show's stupid.
Yeah. I mean, for us, we welcome any feedback. We get lots of weird feedback on YouTube. I don't think they're paying attention because they're talking about other things, but it's all good. Feedback is feedback for us. I mean, you know, but this is a time to be courageous and be courageously truthful with yourself. We talk about that a lot. And then with others. You could practice it on yourself because we all need more of it.
100%. I mean, the question to ask yourself as you try to reflect on how honest am I is, what would your life look like if you said exactly what you think and feel?
It's awesome. I do it.
No, I know you're good at this one.
I do it every moment of the day. I don't use it as a weapon. I don't just tell the truth because it's the truth. I try to be kind and empathetic and compassionate, but even then, sometimes you just have to say it.
Yeah.
And you have to have the courage to say it.
Well, it's all about proper communication, right? I mean, so many people, when we want to bring up an issue or a concern for somebody, we can approach it through in a way that is non-judgmental or criticizing, but to bring it up out of love and compassion. And I think that's sort of one of the places in vibration when you look at people who are at lower frequencies, is a lot of people take constructive criticism as attacks when it's really love.
Most of them do. Most of them do. It's hard to hear feedback about yourself. You know, when we first started doing podcasting back in the day, we had no training. We kind of figured it out on our own. We didn't have all these very cool platforms that help us do this very easy, really well. I mean, the technology is crazy compared to when we started and to now. But the hardest part, and this is something that you and I had a long discussion about when you first said you wanted to do a podcast with me, was I was just telling you, hey, you're going to get some feedback.
Yeah.
Most of that feedback is going to come from you, right?
Yeah.
You're going to talk crap about yourself. You're going to think, oh my God, I sound stupid, or oh my God, because you're not used to hearing yourself played back to yourself. You're not used to looking at yourself playing back to yourself. You're not used to potentially, thousands and thousands of people looking at you and watching every blemish and seeing every thing that's wrong with us, physically.
Yep.
There's a lot of fear of judgments there when you do a podcast, but nothing will fine tune this skill, this radical honesty, than doing something like this, putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Even after all these years, man, we started this in 2009, first with the Knights of Awakening, and it was rough. It was a rough first 6 months. So, but as you have, you kind of grow into it and you start not caring about
Right.
these judgments, and people may not be judging you on YouTube. They are judging us in really weird ways, but
Yeah, right.
like nothing to do with the topic or whatever of the video, but it's you just start to build those boundaries and make them better inside, and you start to do those for yourself too, and we'll get to boundaries later. But yeah, it's a tough thing, especially when you have this fear of judgment or fear of whatever.
Yeah. No, well said. I mean, and you're right. I mean, I know when we first started podcasting, I probably listened to the first 15 episodes after they came out, critiquing it. I mean, we have that negativity bias, so we're always focused on what's bad instead of what's good.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like after about 15 episodes, it's like I don't need to keep doing this.
No.
I'm doing good. We got a system. It's like I don't need to evaluate each episode and figure out what I could have done better in that moment, because a lot of this stuff is more natural than it is premeditated, which I think in a lot of cases to premeditate a lot of this content aside from our show notes can lead to disorganization. But when it comes to being honest with ourselves, being honest with others, I mean, it's not cruelty, it's clarity. It's being able to be honest without judgment. And the more we can establish those kind of boundaries, those lines of communication, the more we can create an atmosphere in which our deep relationships, our important connections, we can foster communication that allows us to grow, because often we don't realize the weeds growing in our own yard until someone is willing to be honest with me. That's one of the things I love about my relationship. Allison's never afraid to call me out if I'm doing something that's not in my best interest and I'm doing it unconsciously. And I can take that feedback and chew it up, decide if it's something that I wanted to swallow or spit it back out.
Mm-hmm.
Is this true? And often she's on the money. And in turn, I can do the same thing with her.
It's really about trying to turn that venom into honey. Right, because it's easy to go right to venom. Yeah. Venom. Especially when someone says something that really cuts deep, whether it's true or not. And we have these defense mechanisms. And what we're really trying to say is, turn those defense mechanisms into something like a boundary, because it's easy. It's real easy to bite and claw and scratch than it is to kind of put yourself in a position. Okay. In other words, it's like when you're receiving this honesty from someone else or from yourself, and that's probably where it's going to come from most often, is from yourself. We have to learn to defend ourselves without a shield, without a wall, right? And it's kind of to be brave and kind of puff our chest down and go, okay, give me your best shot, because it's like you said earlier, it's about love. It's not usually about anything else.
Yeah. Well, it's like people at these lower vibrations, and I know because I've been there myself. We are our worst critics. I don't care where you're at. Usually we are our worst critics. And when we're at those lower frequencies, if you're someone who struggles with someone telling you when you're messing up, it's often because more than likely you're telling yourself it already, and you're judging yourself harshly for it.
And you're just done with it. You're tired.
Yeah, and so when someone tries to even poke at it, it's defense.
Right. Not you too. Gosh dang it. Right.
But often those people who are willing to call you out on your crap that you already are telling yourself might have solutions that you have not been aware of.
Right.
And that's huge, because we as people, when we get stuck in our heads, which most of the population does, we end up convincing ourselves that we are the ones with all the solutions for all our problems. And that is not a coherent way to go through life, because when you start building these structures in our minds about the way the world works and how we work, it's made on glass. When we have something that is built through others, where there's feedback, you can build something stronger, something more stable. And through these more honest dialogues, we can create a much deeper awareness and a much stronger perspective that can allow us to grow past our insecurities and our self-sabotaging behaviors.
Yeah. We talk about judgment a lot and how it's bad. And I have people that disagree with me when I say that, because they say, no, you have to be judgmental. You have to judge what to eat and judge what to say and judge where to be. That's not judgment. That's discernment.
Yeah.
That is a whole different thing. Discernment is a more healthy form of judging, because, of course, we have to be discerning in our lives, or else we get hit by buses and stuff. Right.
Yeah.
So, judgment has a lot to do with this topic, especially from if you're the speaker of this truth to somebody, do so without judgment. But if you're the receiver of it, try not to judge it as an attack. Try not to judge it as something it may not be. I don't take anything personally. I don't rarely take anything personally, but I know that I have when I feel this pain.
Yeah.
It's like, that actually hurt, but did it hurt because it was meant as a weapon, or did it hurt because I'm taking it too serious?
Because it's truth.
Well, I mean, truth can hurt too, but truth usually only hurts when I take it personally.
Right.
Like, if you give me feedback about something I did or something I said or one of my teachings, it may be true. I may not have seen it. I may not have understood it when I wrote it or when I taught it, or right. I'm constantly trying to refine these things, and you are offering me a glimpse at something that maybe I missed, or maybe it's not flowing good or whatever. That's a truth. And it's not the truth that's hurting me. It's like, are you talking crap about my teachings? I really love these things, and
right.
took it really personally. That's usually when it hurts. It's it can stab pretty deep. But if you allow it to come at you without judging it, just witness it, identify it, understand it, and look who I'm talking to. I know you love me. You're not going to say things to me to hurt me. I already know this. If you accidentally hurt me, then that is what it is. It happens. But a lot of that is on me, right? As a receiver, that's on me. So, we talk about what is this radical honesty. Again, it's being courageously truthful. And it's also the courage is in the receiving too. And of course, this starts with ourselves. It's not cruelty masquerading as truth. It's compassion rooted in clarity and discernment. And we talk a lot about mask, and you were talking about being a chameleon earlier. Same difference.
Yeah.
This idea and this practice helps us remove the mask, dissolve them, not be chameleons.
Yeah.
Speak to people and understand what they're saying without manipulation, and reflect without seeing a distorted perspective. In the way of Ashla, in our way, truth is one of our highest values. It's what holds up the roof of our temples.
Yeah.
Because without truth, there is no light.
At all. Now, there's so much power in truth, too, because through truth, that's how you get true understanding, true wisdom. The more you try to cover up, the more you try to sugarcoat, the more you try to avoid each variable in detail, the more you distort the reality that is, and it creates resistance.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you as the listener think of a time where something's happening in your life and you're telling yourself all these little lies to try to make it more manageable, to make it more digestible.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, you're only perpetuating your suffering because you're not willing to just admit that the situation is messed up and you need to take a action to remove yourself or remove the situation itself.
Or hide,
Yeah.
This practice is the practice of living in alignment with truth. As you said, if we're doing these other things, we're not in alignment. We're blocking the flow of that to us. And it's not just in our words, right? But it's in our thoughts and our intentions and our actions. These things all as one being. It's being committed to transparency. First, again, with ourselves, and then with the world. And again, it's not about speaking impulsively or just flipping out and throwing things, or wielding truth as a weapon. Some people say it. Some people will say something super hurtful to you and say, hey, man, the truth is the truth. I'm just being honest. Like, that's the line they use, right? I'm just being honest, dude. Hey, I think your shirt is stupid. Hey, I'm just being honest. No. Knock that off. And don't do that.
Well, and exactly, there's a fine line between...
Don't say that, I'm just being honest, but then use it as a weapon, right?
Right. Well, again, the fine line between constructive criticism and judgment. Because it's true. As much as we're talking about being honest about our feelings, emotions, like, we're talking about being honest, but there is a difference between being honest and attacking people.
It's literally in the word, constructive criticism. be more constructive in your criticism. So constructive is this much, criticism this much, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, but this is how you start to be real and stripping away all these illusions and not being a performer everywhere you go. It just, oh, this is what they want me to do. Oh, this is what they want me to do.
Yeah.
And this is the pathway to, you know, I almost said radical authenticity, but you know what I mean? Like to being authentic.
Yeah.
This is what this ideal asks you. Are you willing to see yourself clearly? Are you willing to name what's really going on, especially when it's uncomfortable? Are you willing to live without manipulation or being manipulated,
Oh.
distortion or being distorted, or avoidance or avoiding everything so you can keep this perfect illusion that you think you're creating? Problem is, everybody sees through it. Just understand that. Literally everyone sees through it. They're just real passive aggressive and not telling you. So you might as well just be real, because no matter what you do, some people are going to judge you anyway, and that's okay. I don't give a about what people say about me. What other people say about me, Michael, is none of my business. You know, you've heard me say that to you many times.
Yep.
It's none of my business. And you know why? Because they are, in their judgments and in all their crap, they're creating a me that doesn't actually exist. They're creating an illusionary me. I'm me. Period.
Yep.
So,
well, and I mean, it comes back to that whole, I mean, when we have a relationship with anyone, we have a relationship with two people, who this person actually is and who they are in our minds. That's why there's so many bad relationships out there, is so many people are dating someone who is not the person, is they got this pedestaled potential version of someone in their mind, and they're not taking stock of this is who this person actually is. Friendships, relationships, workspaces, like,
yeah.
you gotta have congruency, and that congruency is what creates what creates that honesty. Because if you're busy trying to say, well, making excuses for people, making excuses for situations, like, fool me once, shame on.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And you know, you talk about workplace, and this probably extends to most of life, but especially like in the workplace. People will create an illusionary version of themselves because there's all of these different rules and all of these different policies, and you know, the laws outside of our houses and all these things, you know, especially if you're only being good, as you know, and you're not actually being good, but you just kind of mask yourself as being good because of laws or because of virtues or because of you need to dig deeper and find that true virtue in here, the one that exists without rules, without policies, without laws, any of that. That's where the truth, really, this radical truth kind of exists, and it's not always convenient.
No.
You know, I was talking to somebody the other day about them leaving their job, and they told me that they felt really, really like anxious and nervous about it. I said, well, you're breaking up. You're breaking up with a thing that you created, right? It's kind of, there's some kind of grief there. And grief isn't just about I lost somebody or I lost something that I love, but also I've pulled myself away from something that's toxic or somebody that's toxic too. And we have to kind of understand that our feelings and our everything, our whole being reacts to these things in a very linear way sometimes. And grief isn't just about death, as we talked about in our grief show. It's not just about death. It's not just about breakups. I mean, leaving a job that you've been at for a couple of years, man, that is hard. Even if they're toxic, it's really hard, because then you start feeling bad because you're separating yourself from something that was part of your daily life.
Yeah.
Habits, all this stuff. So you have to confront that truth, even if it's not comfortable, especially when it's not convenient. It's raw and it redefines you. And then, after a few days of leaving this job or leaving, maybe not a person, but because that goes a little deeper. But, in this example about leaving a job, a week goes by and you start a new job, and then there's all this whole starting over thing, which can be exciting. It's always exciting for me, even though I typically stay at a job for many, many, many years. But this is about choosing truth over our comfort, and clarity over our convenience, and integrity over our illusions. So this we must do if we are to walk the path of life, or life too, both.
Yeah.
Right?
No, seriously though, well said. So we've talked about what radical honesty is, what is honesty, but why do we lie? Because let's dive into that a little bit. Because often we can have our blinders up on the real reasons we don't confront situations or speak our minds. The first things that come to mind is like conflict, rejection, hurting people, which are all valid emotions.
From a non-judgmental standpoint, pretty good reasons to lie. Problem with lying is it has consequences. And they may not be immediate, but the check is always due eventually. You have to own them, and that's, I've said this before. I try to get through them. I'd rather just tell the truth and get through them. But yeah, fear of consequences. Many of us believe that telling the truth in this way will cost us something. It'll cost us a title or a status or love, especially comfort. It steals our comfort when we're truthful sometimes. You just have this habit of dealing with self-deception. We tell that's not the true story enough times, it becomes the story. And we keep telling it and we start believing it. These illusions become real.
Perception is reality.
Perception is reality. And for a lot of people, if you grew up being punished for being truthful, there's some trauma conditioning there that causes us to lie. And we learn to hide, or we learn to be people pleaser, or we learn to be passive aggressive, which is one of my worst pet peeves. But
I think one of the other things that ties into this is self-worth. Often we don't think we're valued enough that our relationships can handle honesty, or that there will be the rejection of our emotions. So we just bottle them up because it's not worth saying anyway. Yeah. But it's so important that we get to a place where, one, we value ourselves enough to stand up for ourselves and to speak our minds, but also to trust that the relationships that matter, if they are good relationships, can handle truth, even if it's a little rocky at first. Yeah. We have to have faith not just in ourselves, but in our peers. Well, we're being honest with.
Yeah, but also, I'd rather know at the beginning than find out when I'm already attached to them.
Yeah.
You find this out right off the bat. That's why dating's hard. That's why a lot of people have trouble with dating. I hear it a lot. Yeah. Now, I haven't dated in a really long time. I'd be drowning in the ocean probably if I had to step into that, because it's been a really long time, and there's a lot of the customs have changed, and it would really show my age, I think. But better to get it out of the way. This is what you're signing up for, type of thing. By the third or fourth date, man, you should know. You should know. And another one that a lot of people don't talk about, Michael, is these cultural norms that we see. A lot of people are trained from birth to prioritize politeness first, authenticity later.
Yeah, well, it's that political correctness, right?
That too. That too. I've said this before, and I'll say it forever and ever because this is authentically who I am. I'm good. I'm not nice, because I can always choose to be good. I can't always be nice and good at the same time. Yep. So when it comes to being polite over authenticity, if I'm forced to choose, it's authenticity every single time, because I want you to understand who you're dealing with and that I'm very consistent with who I am and what I do. So if I can be kind and polite, then I'll do that. I'll do my best, but I never will prioritize politeness over authenticity. What you see is what you get from me. I'm the same way right now, right here, as I am typing online, as I am in person, right? There's not this is how I am in real life, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm not going to ever apologize for that. I do my best to be as kind as I can, but, you can't always be nice. So good comes before niceties every time.
It's the difference between a nice guy and a good man, right?
That's right. And being a good person, not always fun. No, gives me a headache sometimes, right? Especially in the job I do.
Oh, I believe it with your job. Oh my God.
I talk to a lot of entitled people. Yeah. And they're self-entitled. They didn't earn jack. They're super self-entitled, okay? Not all of them. Most of them aren't. When you get a handful, that ruins it for it can ruin your whole day. So, and you get headaches over it because you're always taking the high road. Yeah. Because really what you really want them to hear isn't always this thing that you should say, as we talked about before, because I don't want my words to be a weapon. I always want my words to be a shield or a staff, maybe. Yeah. Why? So we lie because we fear being unlovable, especially if we have trauma coming from other relationships.
Well, I think another two big things that create this sense of needing to lie is shame and guilt. We feel shameful for the negative emotions people make us feel, and we feel guilty trying to have our needs above others. At least for a lot of the people pleasers out there, there's so much shame that just creeps in where it's just like, I'm ashamed that I have to ask you to quiet it down a bit, or I need you to respect me, or
Yeah.
I need this from you. They feel shame
Right.
because they feel inadequate or whatever, and then
Mm-hmm.
guilty for asking from things from others. I know way too many people that would rather shoulder everybody's problems than give one shred of their problems to somebody else.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, lying isn't always malicious. It's not always, it's not these evil geniuses or these villains out there just lying and lying and lying. Everybody has lied to protect somebody or protect themselves. And it usually is almost always a form of protection, or at least it begins that way. And we're trying to shield ourselves from pain and rejection and failure and judgment. And whether the lies are big and small or intentional or subtle, they create distance. They create they create a block in that flow.
Well, they create
Especially at the
inauthenticity.
relationship level.
Yeah, I mean, this goes into our next topic, which is what is the cost of avoiding truth?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we repress our emotions, resentment. I love it. I heard this quote a while back. It's one of my favorites, and it's unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. When we don't express our needs
Yeah.
and we don't express what's bothering us, they become resentments later on. The red flags you ignore in the beginning become the reason you leave the relationship in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. This goes back to radical accountability too, because we all may have some red flags from time to time that we need to look at too,
and acceptance.
And we need to let people tell us too. But we also need to be unafraid to tell others and say, hey, especially at this beginning stage, it's like, listen, I don't know what that was. I don't know what that was, but I don't like that. And look, if you don't like that, then it's perfectly fine to walk away, distance yourself. But oftentimes avoiding the truth, this kind of radical truth, it gives us temporary shelter and temporary comfort and relief. But as everything else we talk about, this is a long-term, slow, barely noticeable erosion if you allow it to kind of go and go and go. Of our soul, our hearts, of our being, it starts to eat away at it. And when we start like dodging what's real, guess what we do? Again, we delay growth. And we sabotage these relationships that we really want to be in. And again, we block our connection to the universe and God or the force or whatever. So
100%. I mean, and it creates inauthentic relationships. There becomes so much disconnection. I know I had that relationship I was in for 7 years. It's like, it got to a point where I couldn't speak my piece. I stayed in this dynamic and I grew more and more distance. There was that much more drama in the relationship and there was just no authenticity. It was constantly put a face on in public, on social media, and come home and there's just contempt, distance, and disintegration of both the relationship and of ourselves.
Yeah. And you suffer twice.
It leads to spiritual stagnation.
Yes, it does. Yeah. And some of these hidden costs that could be short term or could be immediate or could be 2 years into the relationship, you have this inner dissonance that's just spinning you out with the flow, right? And everything starts hollow, and everything starts to feel kind of
well, then that's when people look outside themselves to find a way to fix what's going on inside, and that's spending problems, addiction, promiscuous behavior. I mean, it's bad.
And look, that's a really good point that I want to bring up, that I want to touch on for a second. Society judges these behaviors that you just said: addiction, spending problems, promiscuous behaviors, stuff like this. It isn't that you're a bad person because you do those things. We just know that it will erode you down to nothing if you don't get a handle on stuff. You do what you want to do, but there are consequences for that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And the consequences aren't immediately noticeable because they kind of just kind of fall away a little bit at a time. If you take a rock and you rub it up against sandstone, the whole thing doesn't break. It just breaks off a little piece at a time. And that's what's happening. So you stunt your growth. If you want to grow, point blank, if you want to grow, this requires courage and honesty. Without truth, there can be no corrections, no learning, no elevation, no clear path. You break trust, which is really, really bad to do. Trust is hard to earn because it requires consistent words and consistent actions and consistent behaviors. When you break that trust, man, that is hard to repair because, you can be forgiven if you do something bad, or you do something that breaks that trust, if someone catches you being dishonest, someone that loves you and trusts you, trust me, they'll eventually see that dishonesty, and then they'll go back and think, oh my God, have they been lying to me for 2 or 3 years? That kind of trust is I won't say it's impossible, but boy, oh boy, it's hard to fix that. And this is not just in relationships, it's within the greater community. You know, we all seen somebody who really, really messed up. It could be a politician, it could be a community leader, it could be a church leader, or a spiritual leader, or whatever. Somebody has a position of trust, not just in the community, but in relationships within the community, and they do something kind of bad, and that they know is going to really come down hard on them. And then what do? They try to hide it, and then they try to bury it, and then they try all this. But once somebody figures out, and then they can see all the dishonest stuff that you did to kind of hide that trust is not coming back. You are done. No, you're not coming back to that. If you're an author or something, you better find a new pen name, because you're going to be in trouble. You're going to be in trouble, and nobody will. Yeah. So yeah, it's better to just not do this stuff.
Yeah.
Because avoiding this truth is like turning away from the mirror and then creating an image that's not there.
Well, and the more you avoid it, this is the kind of thing that'll just compile over time and gather that interest. And again, like you said earlier, that bill will come due at some point. It's just how much you're going to have to pay in the end compared to dealing with it now.
It's better to build those relationships and split the check.
Yeah.
All right. Makes it a lot easier for everybody to enjoy the meal.
Yeah.
And again, in Ashla, we don't chase perfection. And some of these fears are like, oh, people won't like me. I'm unlovable, or I can't control this, or I want to be comfortable, whatever. But all of that's trying to create an illusion of perfection, and you're not perfect. You're never going to be perfect. I'm not perfect. He's not perfect. I've never met a perfect being in my life.
I'm a little perfect.
You're not even close, and neither am I. But perfection is something that's unobtainable for human beings, because we are human beings. Can you be good? You're a great man. You're a good man. You have a good heart. You are a person that I would consider to be what the axioms talk about, a great heart. But you can be a great heart without being perfect, and without trying to strive for something as high as you can, because that at least keeps us reaching for something.
Yeah.
You don't have
never
to
aspire to perfection, though, like you're saying. I mean,
exactly, because when you do that, you have to create illusions.
Yeah, and it creates unrealistic expectations of yourself. That's one of the quickest ways to learn how to loathe yourself, is when you're constantly holding yourself to this unrealistic standard. Again, it's that whole movie star comparison. Well, they all do it. Like, no, these are fictional characters.
Yeah.
You even look at the greats. I love it. It's one of my favorite things to tell my coaching clients when they're going through the hard times and they're figuring out ways to cope with the struggle. And it's like, look, you look at every great person that's ever existed. When they were in the trenches, like you're in now, they did not handle it gracefully. They were not stoic. There were emotions running high. Yeah. I'm sure some of them resorted to alcohol. Like, stop judging yourself, because you're holding yourself to a standard that is not realistic to anyone in the world.
No, and it's not conducive to your growth. You will not grow in an era of perfection. You will not. You will not. So we don't chase perfection. We seek authenticity. And at the root of all of our transformation and growth and stuff is truth. The heavy, the hard, the sharp truth sometimes.
There is so much liberation when we can come to a place and utilize this. For me, one of the biggest...
I love the other side of these. I love the other side of these so much, because it's like, how do you describe how this feels? Yeah.
Man, it's like I had one of my first big moments. Like, I've gotten better about speaking my piece, talking to people when I don't like something. But it's like I had a really big issue come up with one of my friends. And being able to just sit with them, tell them, look, you are crossing a boundary with this. I do not appreciate you doing this. And this will have an impact on our friendship if this is something you continue to do.
And you did that, man. You did that. How did you... So you actually did that not too long ago.
Yeah.
And we talked afterwards, and I was like, I am so proud of you. How do you feel?
Oh my God. It's crazy. That anxiety, that frustration, the rumination, like that I felt before when I let things slide and just let the boiling come down a little bit, come to a simmer. Like, again, builds into resentment later if I don't do nothing. And doing this, like, I have felt completely at peace with the situation. I have spoken my mind. I feel confident my boundary won't be crossed, but I've also made it clear what will happen if it does. And it's just having stated my piece has brought me so much, not only peace, but inner strength. Because it's teaching myself, because this is one of those things. We're not saying radical honesty, you need to do this with everything, and we are, but it's a skill you got to develop.
Yes,
And
practice, practice.
Yeah. And that little step, just having all the practicing I've done up to that, and having my first real time where it was a hard conversation, was liberating and uplifting.
With someone you respected and loved. Yeah, and you have all this fear, like, oh my God, all the fear we've been talking about for the different things. And it's like, I love this dude. I don't want to lose any of this, but I must assert my boundary.
Yep.
And once you did that, the response you got was great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and we talked about it later on after having that moment. It's like, we're back to synergy. There's no negative ill will on his part, and there's no ill will on my part. There's no resentment I'm compartmentalizing or anything, and it's
no
beautiful.
Anxiety, no stress.
It's not a part of my thought process anymore.
You're aligned. You're aligned now. And look, for us on this path, the path of Ashla, the truth is not, I don't want everybody to think that it's just a virtue that we carry. It is a force upon itself. It clears the way.
Yeah.
Because there'll be times upon your path where it'll be overgrown, and it'll be like, and then you'll start having confusion and maybe some doubts about, am I even walking the right path? Go back to truth, and it will clear that for you.
Yeah.
It does. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Seriously, though. I mean, it brings alignment, freedom.
Yes.
The biggest thing for me, and I can't stress this enough, we talk about often the nervous system. That nervous system is exactly what's telling me there was a problem here. That's what creates all that anxiety, that rumination, all the emotions that just keep coming up. Yeah. Making peace with it also made peace in my nervous system. I felt it in my bones.
Down to the marrow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Down to the marrow. It dissolves shame.
Yeah.
There's the first one that we should explore a little bit. It dissolves shame. Secrets. Okay. Let me rephrase for a second, because I've had this debate with my better half about secrets. Okay. She's a Scorpio. She should be
those darn Scorpios.
But keeping secrets away from people. Okay. Let me differentiate here. If you tell me something in confidence, I will keep that for you. Okay. You can call it a secret, or you can't, or whatever. I will keep it in confidence for you because I gave you my word. I won't tell anybody. But when you're hiding things and keeping secrets, especially from those people that are closest to you, this turns into shame and guilt and all these things.
Yeah.
Being radically truthful and honest, it freaking destroys that feeling of shame. You reclaim your power. You disarm those kind of shadowy things that maybe lead you down to more lies and more lies and more lies.
Yeah. Well, just to back you up on this, one of the things that I love about my relationship is we do practice radical honesty to a really high degree. So it's like, I do something that I worry she might not like. I don't tell her because I feel shameful, but I tell her because then it doesn't store into my memory banks of like, should I feel guilty for this? Instead, we just have a dialogue. Or if there's something I don't like, we bring it up. Doesn't mean that anytime we have a problem with one another, we're constantly changing ourselves. But it just means we have a discussion around it. And if modifications need to happen, they do. And it's beautiful.
And to segue into the next thing I was going to say, it deepens your connection. It's a perfect example. It deepens your connection. It fosters better intimacy and trust and real, true understanding. It clears away that fog, and it allows that relationship to thrive in its inauthenticity.
Yeah.
Which is where it should always be.
Well, I mean, the way it can just deepen your relationships, when you have this upfront attitude with people you care about, and they can do the same with you, it is a two-way street here. Yeah. It fosters true intimacy. It allows yourself to remove these masks and be fully authentic and present with one another in a way that isn't something that you're rehearsed or something you're trying to, a persona you're trying to portray. Yeah. It's being a flawed human being with each other and not judging each other for it and having that dialogue where you're not trying to compensate or compete.
Right. Yeah. Or perform.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for.
But I will say this too, and this happens a lot. It happens a lot to me because I've been very, very much like this for as long as I can remember. It got me in trouble a lot. Didn't, obviously it turned out fine. But oftentimes you will come across people who aren't quite at that level of honesty with you. And I would just caution you to just give them grace.
Yes.
Give them love, be compassionate. Don't hold them to any kind of hard expectations or conditions. Be the example for them. Let them kind of catch up to you, because you will find people who are not there. And, when you are there, this happens to me a lot to this day. Every day this happens to me at some point in my day. When I come at people with this radical honesty, I come at them like a freight train. They feel like it's a freight train. It's very difficult for some people who are kind of down here, still working their way up there. I'm too much. I'm too overwhelming,
Right.
So it's important to remember that we have to be aware of kind of where they're at, and kind of, don't lower yourself to meet them where they're at, but just give them some grace and give them that space to grow and kind of meet you where you're at.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. And I mean, this applies to all of our teachings, honestly.
All of them. Exactly.
Because you can't expect, this is a path. This is a journey that you have to willfully want to do. And it's not, as any of you who have started following this path it's not an easy path. But you can't expect other people who are not walking the path to be living in alignment with these virtues you're embodying and cultivating, right, because that's just not realistic. And even then, it's kind of like the maps analogy you use a lot, on how we all start in different spots. You may be really good in honesty and really crappy in accountability, and vice versa. You might be really good in accountability but really horrible in honesty. You got to meet people where they're at, and if they're not pursuing growth in these areas, don't judge them. You got to accept people for who they are. And as Justin said, the perfect thing to embody this is, all you need to be is an example. And you don't need to do anything beyond that. I saw this beautiful quote about parenting the other day that has just hit such a chord with me that I want to take into becoming a parent myself. And that is, your kids never become who you tell them to be. They become who you show them.
That's right.
And that goes for all your relationships.
Yeah. I'm so proud of my children, all of them. They are very, very generous human beings, and they're very graceful human beings. And, they don't follow me exactly. They're their own people. They don't follow the path of Ashla per se, but you know what? At least they picked up on the good stuff. They picked up on boundaries really well, so everybody has their own path. No one walks it the same, but that they are who you show them to be, or show them who you are. That's what they'll pick up on. And just remember, they're always watching.
Yeah.
Even when they're in their 20s, they're still watching. They're always watching. So that's a great, great point. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no, I've been spending a lot of time sitting with that lately, because I'm really looking forward to being a dad soon. It's like, that's one thing I need to embody. Is I see it with my niece. I see it in so many other dynamics with families, and it's the same with my family. It's like, it's not who my parents told me I needed to be. It's what they modeled for me, are the virtues that I took with me as I grew.
Yeah, and again, just remember, not everybody's raised like that. So give them some grace when they need it. And if they don't want to grow, then you have to make a choice. You have to decide,
is this a deal breaker?
And be honest with that. Be honest with yourself. So another thing this does for us, I think you kind of touched upon this already, it ends that inner war.
Yes.
When we stop pretending and performing and hiding, we find freedom from this exhausting burden of falsehood. It's exhausting. You said earlier about, somebody that just takes on the weight. That's exhausting. Yeah. And it's not even their weight to carry, but it's exhausting.
There's a book that was written by Brad Blanton called Radical Honesty. It was one of the first books. It was not one of the first books I picked up, but when I got into these radical terms, it was the first one I heard, and I picked up that book. And one of the things he claims, kind of like you're saying with the inner war, is it will destroy the inner critic. If you start just being honest with people, you will realize you will stop that inner war, and it will quiet your mind so much, and all the self-deprecation your mind gives you, because you've made peace with your reality.
Yeah.
It's a great book. I recommend for anyone.
You're constantly trying to remember what story you told.
Yeah, right?
When you just tell the truth, you don't have to remember anything.
No. So,
you don't remember anything. So, yeah.
So when we look at radical honesty, an important thing to look at is the boundaries within this. What radical honesty is and isn't. Which radical honesty, as we talked about, constructive criticism next to attack. It's also not oversharing or just dumping your feelings on people. You got to be responsible with these things. If there's an issue going on, don't react in the moment. Take time, sit with it. If you need a week, fine. If there's an issue going on, take space so you can have a dialogue instead of just vomiting all this chaos onto someone.
Yeah.
You know?
Listen, boundaries are there to protect, not prevent. You can't you can't possibly know what's coming at you at any given moment. You can mitigate some of that. You can do some risk management, right?
Yeah.
But you can't mitigate 100% of anything all the time.
No.
So it doesn't mean, so these boundaries are there to protect, and it doesn't mean telling everything to everyone all the time.
Yeah.
You gotta kind of chill a little bit.
When it's like, not all truths need to be shared, you know? It's like someone's picking their nose. It's like, you don't need to call them out unless you're really worried about they're going into public speaking or something. It's like, hey, I noticed you do this a bit. Like, and it doesn't
like I'm doing that right now. I'm not picking my nose, but these allergies are just killing me.
Yep.
I've had headaches all week. So it's like, it's the itchy time on my nose.
You know, and kind of like you brought up the high road. My dad raised me on the high road. And unfortunately, I have learned after watching him and his, because he takes the high road with everything and everyone. And I believe the high road is meant mainly for people that you encounter in the workspace, like customers. It's for people that, it's situations that are there and gone. Like, that doesn't mean always taking the high road in your intimate relationships. It means taking the high road as far as how you approach it. But if you have an issue with someone you care about or someone you see every day, that's where sharing is very much encouraged.
Yes. Yeah. It's about honoring what is true for you while at the same time honoring the connection in your relationships, right?
Oh,
because sometimes I do have to bring myself a little bit off the high road to kind of deal with what's here. You know, it'd be nice if we could always be on the high road. And really, the high road is more of that reflection of you. You should always, remember that the accountability you take, what you do is a reflection of you. What other people do is a reflection of them. And if you are...
There's an axiom for this.
There is an axiom for this.
To tolerate lesser things is...
wise and kind. Yeah. So these boundaries help us share our truth and the truth safely, but also wisely.
Yes.
Okay. And you said not impulsively or harmfully. And, because we understand on this path that truth without context can wound and cut, and timing without truth can deceive, even if we're not trying to. So, part of an axiom that we use is live in accordance with the nature of things. In dealing with others, stand by your word.
Yeah.
Stand by your word. Your word is your bond. And, when we talk about nuance, a lot of people see nuance as compromising their values or compromising their truth. And they fear that nuance is weakness, that it dilutes their being. It dilutes who they are. It dilutes their integrity. But it's really it's really a wisdom.
Yeah.
And it's a wisdom that tells us that when truth needs more of a gentle hand, and when it needs more firmness and more bark, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that silence is sacred. It's fine to not engage, but not let that idea of silence become avoidance, right?
Right.
And when we speak to be heard, not just to be right.
Right.
So because you get mixed up, and if you're always trying to be right, you kind of get mixed up off the path a little bit.
Yeah. It's one thing to protect your peace. It's another to try to be authoritarian and trying to dictate how people should be. I've seen it.
They don't like that.
The point of truth is, yes, to help you develop that inner peace, but it's also to build these relationships you're being honest in. The more you can be authentic with someone, the more you can be accepted for you, and the more they have the opportunity to grow beyond their own shortcomings that may be impacting this.
Yeah. Yeah. So this radical honesty, it's not asking us just to, what is true. What it's kind of asking us to do is to remember, who am I speaking to, right? Who's in front of me? Because if it's my wife, I'm going to speak to her with as much love and grace as I can muster in that moment. Somebody else? Probably not. Probably not. What is my intention with sharing this truth?
Yes.
Is
it control?
Right. It could be, yeah. And if it is, you kind of reevaluate. My favorite, my favorite one is this. Will what I'm saying, will this build or destroy?
That's a good question.
Right? Because, our words can destroy, but our words can build. Yeah. So, we must align this truth with what purpose we are serving, to illuminate, not humiliate. And this is path specific things for Ashla, right? So we're here to illuminate, not humiliate. We're here to empower, not overpower or overtake or control. And we're here to heal, not just reveal your faults, Michael.
Yeah.
Through your training, your shadow selves and your kind of, and I don't like the word faults because people take it wrong, but the things
Perfect imperfections.
Well, your opportunities, let's say.
There we go. I like that.
It's about healing those for you, not just saying, "Oh my God, look at all the opportunities you have."
Yeah, right.
That's not helpful. We go one at a time, and they come up naturally. No two people will have the same opportunities. There might be some common ones, but we're here to heal with our words and our actions and our intentions and our purpose, not just to say, "Man, you are jacked up, bro." Yeah. And then just walk away.
Right.
It's not super helpful.
Well, in the tie-in with what you were saying earlier, I mean, it's honesty without responsibility or empathy is just a weapon. But with empathy and responsibility, that's when it's dialogue. That's when it's constructive. That's when it builds and not destroys.
Yeah. And when I have you look at the axiom, never make excuses, recognize, correct, and learn from your errors, then move on. That axiom requires some context. If I just say, you know what, knock it off with the excuses. Yeah. Tired of hearing the freaking excuses from you, right? If that's all I said, well, I'm revealing that you're a crybaby or a complainer or something, right? But if I say, never make excuses, you need to recognize, correct, and learn from your errors. And there will be many errors. And you will have excuses from time to time because that is being human. Move on from them. Once you recognize them, once you correct them, and once you embody that lesson becomes wisdom, then you move on. So we're here to heal, not just reveal. Yeah. So
well, I think it ties into timing is also a really important thing here, Yeah. Someone's going through it, someone's going through that self-deprecation, or they're just spilling out all this frustration they have, and you see what they could do to help them, and you want to give them advice. It might be better to wait till they've gotten to a better place, Also, the place they're at matters. If you're amongst a group of friends and you're going to tell your friend off, you might want to wait till you're in a private area or in a better location. So, timing matters.
It does. And how do you discern that? Through lots of practice. It gets easier. And, there is a time and place for all things. We talked about divine timing a few episodes ago. And that's not just a practice that you do completely spiritually. No, perfect time. I use the word perfect, but this right timing and time and place matter. Very, very important. Because, so like I was talking about in a few episodes ago, after I broke my leg and I just flipped out on my wife in the middle of Walmart. I flipped out because she was walking too fast. I couldn't keep up on the crutches. I took that personally. She's just trying to get me in and out of there because she knows I don't want to be there. I don't want to be on crutches, but I needed to get back out into the world and start being outside again. Of course, I could just sit here and get 600 pounds and be really unhealthy and give myself more problems. No, I need to get out there. I don't want to. But as a loving gesture, she's encouraging me to go out there. And I took it personal. And she was being, she was right. I need to get up and I need to get moving. It's not just about getting really big and heavy. It's also about blood clots and all these other little problems that can become really bad ones.
Yep. And mental health, honestly.
Huh?
And mental health, honestly.
Yes. Oh, I was in a horrible spot. I was in a really bad spot. It was like my shadow work 2.0. But this time the shadow was really pissed off at me and I was pissed off at it, right?
No.
And it was like a fight, but I was losing because I was broken a little bit, literally, physically and mentally. So there is a time and a place. If I really had a problem with what she was doing, and I knew she was right, but I just let it get the best of me, and I flipped out. And I embarrassed her. I flipped out so bad on her that it didn't embarrass me, and it really should have. Really, really should have, because, I wasn't calling her like names and stuff like that, but man, I was not happy, and I was letting everyone in that store, and it's a big store. You've been to it. It's a big store, and everybody heard it, and I didn't even feel bad about saying it at first. Once I realized that, man, I should not have, if I was really that upset with her, I should have just asked her, can you please slow down? I'm having trouble keeping up.
Yeah. Well, and I think
right?
important things like this, again, you and me, one of the things I love about our conversations is we both come from opposite ends of the spectrum.
Mhm.
So it's like when you're overly honest, especially like this is you're not necessarily like this at this point, but those moments where that
Mhm.
honesty overflows in a venomous
Sometimes I
fashion,
still am, man. This is why this practice, practice, practice. I
hell.
have my moments still to this day.
But it's like I bet you went into repair, which was, hey, I overreacted and I'm
Oh
sorry
yeah,
for that. Yeah. And that's
yeah.
what you
I
do in
cried
those
about
kind of
it.
situations.
She called me out on it. She gave me another dose of radical honesty.
Yeah.
It made me cry. It made me cry because I realized, my God, what an asshole I was.
Yeah.
I should have been embarrassed by that, but and of
Heat of the
course, yeah,
moment.
this is like 8 years ago or something. I barely remember being broken now, but yeah,
When you
but I'm
reference
not.
that time a lot, I mean it's always
Well, I
these
do.
great moments of darkness. Do we see a lot of our hidden stuff we've gotten buried deep, and when it comes to the surface, that's when we can have that radical honesty with ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
this is something that I need to keep in check. This is something I need to look at.
I reference that for a couple reasons, and the first one is what you just said. Sometimes darkness is the only way to find our light, by everything else getting dark around us, right?
Yeah,
And to remind you that you have a lot of great reverence and respect for me, and so do many of these people that know me. But it's
yeah,
important for you to remember that I screw up too,
yeah,
still. And I want people to understand that this is not about a path to perfection or a path to salvation, or it is learning to be the most authentic version of ourselves that we can be.
yeah.
So it's important.
100%. I think this ties in great with, I mean, there's so much healing and growth that can come from radical honesty, especially
Hmm.
like in shadow work. Those moments where we are just livid and we lash out, or the opposite where we seclude and freeze up. And if we can be honest with ourselves about these darker parts of ourselves that come to the surface from time to time, and be honest about why this is happening, where did this come from? We can start to do that really healing work of changing the way we show up in the world. Same with the stories we tell ourselves, which is often what triggers these responses. If we can be
Hmm.
honest about situations, no matter how helpless they were, but we can create an honest narrative, we can heal these parts of our past that'll allow us to show up more authentically and more virtuously in the future. We'll
Yeah,
act from a place of authenticity and not from pain, which
yeah,
so many of us do. Our pain, we all have pain. We all have been through our own trials, and that pain stays with us until we're willing to address it.
yeah,
And that's how you
yeah,
cultivate self trust, cultivate deeper presence.
yeah. Healing and growth are impossible without truth. It's impossible. You may build an illusion that you're growing and healing, but before, if you don't face these things head on, if you don't face the things that are broken within you, truthfully, honestly, but also gracefully and compassionately, you won't grow and you won't heal. It's like putting a band-aid over, you know, a surgery. You
Yeah,
can't. You can't.
no.
But you could trick yourself into thinking
Yeah.
it is.
Well, again, it comes back to that perception becomes your reality, and you can
Uh-huh.
you can give yourself the blinders as much as you want. Like it's easy to tell yourself a narrative that empowers you and makes you feel superior or makes you feel inadequate and inferior. The stories you tell yourself paint the picture that is your reality, and it's a lot of people don't give this stuff enough credence. I know you had one of our first episodes we ever did was on perception and reality, and
Mhm.
man, it's one I'd love to talk to you about because it's some that's one of the first aha moments I had on my spiritual journey, even before I got into healing and all that. I
Mhm.
saw it in that toxic relationship where she was
Yeah.
angry all the time, and it's like,
Right.
man, it's your perception is the only thing bringing this on. Next to if you look at it just from a slightly different angle, from a little more perspective, you could feel so much more empowered and so have so much more empathy.
Yeah.
But she was getting something off of being angry all the time.
Yeah. Unfortunately. And I wish her healing, you know, but at the end of the day, when we tell the truth to ourselves and to others about how we feel, what things we're scared of, what we desire, yada
Yeah.
yada, we open this door for genuine, authentic transformation. This does not flow through what it for anything that's false. It
Yeah.
doesn't. It won't. It'll still be there for you when you're ready to be truthful.
Yep.
At least with yourself.
What cultivates resistance, right?
It does.
The more you resist what is, the more it will disturb you when you are faced with the reality. That check will come due.
And like I said before, truth is what clears the way when you're stuck, when you're confused, when things are clouded. There is another axiom that fits in with this. Agonizing over a situation to resolution provides limited gain and comfort. The price you pay long term for not letting go can be great.
There it is.
Bless you.
Thank you. I felt it build, and I'm like, come on.
Colorado's been crazy with pollen this year. It's
bad. I
bad.
can't believe it. I was worried. I was sick yesterday. I got to work. I'm like, I think I'm coming down with a summer cold. My coworker's like, hey, take an allergy pill. I'm like, I'll try it.
Yep.
It's
allergies.
That's the issue.
Yep. I've been coughing and wheezing and sneezing and being itchy and headaches and gosh.
Runny nose. That's what gets me.
I usually can't wait for fall because I don't like the heat. I'm not great in the heat. But man, I can't wait for August when all this pollen just dies. I just cannot wait. So this practice also requires self-confrontation.
Yeah.
It does, right? Because it's a mirror.
Yeah.
It's a mirror. It's a mirror. And mirrors tell the truth, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
Exactly what is in front of it. Just like they always say video cameras always tell the truth.
Yep.
She edited them, but right.
So sometimes we just don't want to look at that part of ourselves that we've been looking away from all this time, but it takes doing that to heal it.
Well, you can't grow into your final form for those anime guys.
Yep.
You can't reach that without acknowledging your patterns either. We have to own our actions without blame. This goes back to a radical accountability, right?
Yep.
Admit where we've held back and why we've held back and what we're holding back from, and see where our ego, our disharmonious ego, our fear and pride have ruled over us. Or let us get away with this nonsense. Let us lie to ourselves. It feels better. It feels safer.
Yeah.
And some people will say, Michael, that this is cruel. It's not cruel. Think of it like compassionate discipline.
Yeah.
You must do this. I'm sorry to tell you, you must do this. And it will be hard.
But practice.
But ask yourself this. Do you love yourself enough to be real with yourself?
Well said.
And if you don't, then that's where you start. You start there. If you don't love yourself enough to be real with yourself, then start there. That's where your journey starts. So, and with others, I honor you enough to show you who I truly am. Let's get this over with. Let's right up front. Here I am.
Yeah.
Love me or hate me,
Here I am.
Here I am.
Anything else you want to share with our listeners before we jump into affirmations and exercises?
I do one thing. We talk about alchemy a lot. And this practice is very much a cleansing and fire sometimes. It is alchemy. It transforms our shame into freedom, our denial into power, our fear into courage, our illusion into clarity. And every time we choose truth over comfort, we cleanse ourselves a little by little, right? This is like a cleansing and fire. And growth stops being accidental. You stop kind of tripping into growth because of all the stuff that's happening around you. It becomes intentional and it becomes powerful. So I am who I am, and I love who I am becoming every single day. That's where I'll leave.
Always got those drops of wisdom. For affirmations today, I have the courage to speak my truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. When I tell the truth, I return to my power. I release the need to perform or please. I choose to be real. I am safe to be fully seen and fully known. I trust that the truth serves my growth and liberation.
It will.
Yeah.
It definitely will serve your growth and liberation. I promise.
Guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
I know this has probably been one of the hardest things I've had to practice, but it's also been one of the most liberating things. And that includes being honest with others and with myself about situations and everything else. So for the exercise today, find stillness. Sit quietly for a minute. Breathe in slowly, drop into your body, and ask yourself, what truth am I avoiding right now? About myself, my feelings, relationships, or a situation? What am I pretending not to know? Where am I lying to myself to stay comfortable? And then ask yourself, if I were radically honest with myself today, what would I say or do differently? Let the real answer come, even if it's hard. I have a bonus exercise as well. For those who struggle, who are people pleasers, who struggle with expressing their feelings or their needs. Pick someone in your life who you have a good, strong, intimate connection with, and just practice. Bring up something that you've been holding in, whether it's something small, a mannerism, or a habit, or maybe just a need that's not getting met quite to the extent it needs to be. Start cultivating this muscle by starting small, lifting those small weights first. Have those conversations with them, even if it's hard, even if you feel yourself shutting down. This is how you start practicing this stuff, is putting yourself in situations that are uncomfortable so you can start cultivating those muscles. Pick one small truth to act on today. It might be setting a boundary, telling someone how you really feel, being honest with yourself in a journal. So, that comes to my journaling prompt. If I could say one honest thing without fear of judgment or consequence, what would it be? What is the one truth that is burning inside of you, causing the most disharmony? And then ask yourself in your journaling prompt, why have I been holding this in? What would it feel like to live in alignment with this truth? What part of me needs compassion for being afraid to say it? Because again, this is all compassion work. These people-pleasing measures or the reverse. These parts are trying to keep us safe. How can you give it compassion so that you can allow yourself the freedom to evolve and grow? Well, that's it for our episode today. Thank you for sticking with us to the end. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucian.
Ad Lucian.